Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Welcome everybody. Please gather and join us here close to the stage. Welcome. If you have been attending the opening session just a few minutes ago, welcome back. And for those who just arrived right now, welcome to these EuroPCom talk sessions. My name is Emna Chauch, and I'm very happy to be your host and moderator for this session. For those who are joining us now, whether in person here at the European Committee of the Regions or online, for those who are watching us online as well, welcome to the largest annual European conference for experts in public communication. This year's theme is Beyond Words, a Story of Trust. This year, we connect with the human faces behind public communication, whether it's citizens, local leaders, journalists, and communicators, all striving to bridge the gap between policy and people's realities. You may have seen it already. This year, it's not only about talks. We want to open up the debate through a variety of workshops, ideas labs, trainings, and networking spaces. And now comes the time for inspirational and experience talks. In a few minutes, we're going to welcome our three speakers for today. And before, I want to share with you the fact that you can also ask your questions and share what you believe in through our online interaction tool that is dedicated for that. You can see it here. There's a QR code that you can scan, and you access it and ask all of your questions at all times. There is a dedicated team at EuroPCom that will read through them and answer as many as possible. We want to hear from you, so please go for it. Also this year, we are championing artificial intelligence. So at the end of the event, there will be available content through text and video extracts, also the recording of the web stream sessions. All of them will be available through a platform called Panoramic AI. You will, of course, get all of the information in a follow-up email, but you can already definitely count on it, and everything will be available in a week from now, on the week from July 10th. For this session specifically now, we are going to enjoy the intervention of three experts and influencers in their own areas, aiming at closing the gap between EU institutions or politics and the citizens. In recent years, we know that a large share of the audience has turned to social media and videos to gain information about politics and news. So three inspiring influencers right now stand out in this panorama. They have been invited to convey their view and inspire the audience, you all, to discuss what trust means to them. Following the red thread of the whole event, we will deep dive into three strands of trust: trust in communities, trust in technology, and trust in institutions. Our first speaker now is a political activist. A few years back, she co-founded Volt Europe, the first pan-European political party, served as a trustee of the United Nations Association in the UK, and sat on the board of the Democracy and Culture Foundation. She also lectured at Northeastern University for the Sociology and International Relations departments, focusing on how global governance could tackle global challenges. Today, she's the co-founder of Atlas, a global political movement uniting people for humanity's survival, with 25,000 plus members in over 134 countries. She's challenging the United Nations Secretary General selection process for climate change, artificial intelligence, wars, dictatorships, pandemics, and poverty to be finally tackled. She's currently a senior non-resident fellow at the Center for International Policy, looking into how to design an effective, democratic global governance system. For this first short and confrontational talk, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Colombe Cahen-Salvador.
Hi, everyone. So, as you've heard, I know how to do basically one thing. It's mobilize people across borders and work together to try to solve big challenges. That's the one thing I've learned how to do over the last 10 years. I've done so in European politics, and now I try to do so across the world. I believe that we share certain common challenges. Climate is one of them, it's obvious, it doesn't stop at borders. But there are a lot of others that we need to solve together. 10 years ago, when I started in Brussels, a lot of people told me, you'll see, working with people on the ground all over the world, that doesn't really work. You're gonna do it for a year or two, and then you're gonna stop. It's impossible. It's been 10 years. I've mobilized people in 134 countries, and a lot of the time, it's hell. Working together online, on Zoom, in different time zones, different languages, when you don't have the same cultural reference points, the same jokes, it doesn't always fly. It's difficult. But what I've learned is I've gained an insane trust in people and communities. And unfortunately, I have lost it big time in institutions and companies. So a lot of the time I'm asked, why try to mobilize people? Why do transnational politics? Politics is difficult enough at the national level. And it is. But if I ask many of you in the audience and across the world what you fear, what you hope, what you want, the answers will pretty much be the same. Your realities will be very different, but you'll want safety, you want accessible healthcare, you'll want to have access to affordable living, you'll want a future you can live in. And often, people perceive that the institutions we're sitting in, our governments, our representatives, fail to deliver on those very, very basic needs. And that's when people, when communities take it upon themselves, take it on their own hands to create a new future, a future they can actually believe in. Because if you look historically, a lot of huge change has come from people, from communities coming together, the suffragist movement, the anti-apartheid one, the anti-colonial revolutions. Wrongs are made right when people rise up, stand together, and refuse injustice every single time. The same thing will happen eventually with the climate movement, with the Palestinian liberation struggles. People speak up, communities act, the public discourse changes. We've seen it over the last few years. But institutions and companies often fail to act swiftly and fast enough. And so people lose trust, rightfully so. How are we supposed to trust in institutions that say one thing and do another one? So let me take controversial examples, since your moderator said it will be controversial and frontal. Ukraine. The EU has rightfully stood by Ukraine. Not enough, not always perfectly, but rightfully done so. Take Palestine again. It took the EU 6 months, 13,000 people murdered by Israel, to call for a humanitarian pause, not even a ceasefire. Today, the EU remains Israel's biggest trading partner. And this is despite millions of people every week going in the streets and demanding better. But institutions fail every single time. How are we supposed to have trust? Trust is not blind. It's not. And I'm often told, your generation doesn't care. Your generation doesn't vote, doesn't want to get involved in politics. So what should you talk? But it's not true. Politics, democracy is not voting every 5 years. You've heard it from John earlier. It's everyday civic and political action. And people worldwide are mobilizing. They're creating alliances on climate, on liberation, on freedom, on justice. They are choosing to come together and to demand more. Because there's, for me, where trust lies. Not in empty rhetoric and social media slogans, but in shared struggles. That's what actually matters. So, what we've seen is not only a failure of leadership, of governance over the last few years, we in the EU, right? Of our fundamental values that haven't been applied systematically. It's a failure of trust in the first thing. But the thing is, I actually consider people and communities to be the global moral compass of this world, to be our global conscience. If you look around you, if you look in the news every day, you will read about people that risk everything, that risk their lives, their livelihoods, their jobs, their visas, their friendships, their family support, in order to do what's right. And they won't stop. So it's not that I have sometimes I'm told I have blind trust in people. I think everything is going to work out because people go to a protest and join forces. I don't. But I have faith in the future because I see people trusting one another and demanding better. We cannot expect communities to participate in institutions that they think often are rigged, unfair, undemocratic, or to trust companies that are owned by the very few, by oligarchs, and trust it. We just can't. The truth is, we are often told, look, people don't care, but it's a myth. People do, but they're not heard. And for me, that's when public communicators like yourselves come in. You can actually be the bridge between people, institutions, and companies. You can amplify the voices of communities that are demanding real change. You can translate what institutions are doing or failing to do on the matters that actually matter. I'll go back to the EU where we are. I've campaigned for a more integrated European Union, for a more federal one, for a more progressive one. And I'm often told, basically, when I talk about the EU, people have this image a lot in their mind of this ivory tower very far away with grey suited individuals in very dark offices, and they push papers around, and that's a bit what they do all day long. A part of it might be true. But if you communicate it adequately, the EU is also the nurse that will cross borders to support their patients. It's the student that built a new life through Erasmus. It's the activist that invokes EU law to protect their rights, to have access to justice, to due process. It's the climate scientist that has access to EU research grants and can fight for the future of our planet. The EU is not a set of institutions, of companies. It's millions of people that every day choose to come together to do better, to protect their future, their dignity, and each other. I don't think that trust can be manufactured. I don't think it can be made better after an election with a cool slogan, a campaign, or a carefully worded PR statement. I think trust can only happen when people don't feel but are heard, when people can participate meaningfully, but also, most importantly, when their participation leads to real change. This means when institutions are willing to, as you've heard before, not only open themselves up, recognize when they've been wrong, recognize when they've been complicit, accept it, acknowledge it, change, and do better. Trust stops when institutions try to manage communities, but take leadership from communities. Because trust doesn't ripple from power. It rises from people. So listen to them and amplify their voices. Thank you.